Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another session of the Neota Network. This session is actually part of our Neota platform and legal education stream. Neota Logic has several relationships with several major universities around the world where we teach Neota Logic and make the platform available to students so that, one, they can participate in sort of the evolution of legal technology and catch up on the latest in providing legal services digitally, and as well too, so that the students can actually develop applications and build for pro bono and nonprofit organizations. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Pip Ryan, who is a senior lecturer and barrister at the ANU College of Law. And Philippa, or Pip, will describe a learning module that she designed to teach her law students how to develop a legal app using Neota Logic. So the app that our students created streamlines and automates the process of drafting court documents and correspondence while reducing professional risk. So something very interesting and illuminating, and during the Neota Network, we're trying to add in pro bono education and other content so that we really round out your knowledge of not only how the platform can be used in different sectors, but also to highlight some of the efforts we're doing as a company to close the access to justice gap. So I'd like to hand it over to Pip. Take it away.
Thank you, Max. It's my great pleasure to present today in relation to an activity that I've developed in conjunction with Neota Logic here at the Australian National University, where we are teaching legal apps development in a core law subject. So this begs the question, why is this interesting? It's interesting because I think it may be one of the very rare occasions upon which someone, me, has found time in a very crowded teaching schedule to include how we design and develop legal apps in a subject that is compulsory for all law students. I did this in a course that had 485 students in the first half of 2020, and I did it 100% online. It was always intended to be online. Due to COVID, it became quite important and useful that that was how I had designed it. It didn't require any reworking to make it deliverable. So importantly, the question we want to ask in relation to this is, what's the challenge? What are we trying to do with students when we say to them, you're going to be a lawyer, but we want to teach you how to design an app? Well, we're trying to face the future, and the future is crowded, and it's very, very loudly stating that law graduates are going to need to prepare for a future in which they're going to need to understand legal technology for more reasons than has been the case in the past. In the past, I would have said a law graduate needs to understand legal technology to use research services, which are very valuable and important, and perhaps to cross-examine the odd expert. But what's happening now is that technology is creeping into the way that we practice the law, and we need our grads to be ready for that. They also need to be ready for the fact that the way that technology is being used by their clients is more sophisticated than ever, and they need to be prepared to look under the hood and to demand to understand why and how it's being used. And this is the future of the law school. It has to include in its curriculum some teaching around legal apps. So how did we teach legal app development? Well, it's not easy, because first of all, you have to ask who's going to teach it. Do you have anybody who's qualified in your law school? So to answer this and to respond to the problem, we decided between the team here at ANU and Neota Logic to create a course that is self-guided. And so the students themselves just run through the project, and they can engage with training materials, they can test the app, they can have trial and error, and they can work in teams. And that's very important because it's practice authentic. That's the world they're going to face when they are in practice. When do we do it? We do it in the middle of the course. We teach them a little bit about the civil procedure rules, the obligations of a lawyer to the court, duties to their client, and then we say, how does this play out? If you want to create an app to streamline what you do. How do we do it? We deliver a half-completed app, which I will show you in a moment. And we also make the learning objectives explicit. Those learning objectives are work in teams, build an app, test it, and then use it. And reflect upon whether or not it has limitations and what the benefits are. The project itself is to invite students to think about computational processes, logic, what do lawyers do, and how is this changing in the future, and how should we think differently? These are very important questions if we're going to solve the problems of the future. What we want to produce with the app that we have delivered in this course is a draft defense to a real statement of claim, and then a request for further and better particulars. Now you might ask, what is so special about this? Well, if you're a junior lawyer and you're asked to draft a defense, this is a process that is riddled with risk and uncertainty. The app reduces all of that. It prompts the user to do a conflicts check, ask whether the parties are solvent, inquire as to the limitation period, and then it says how many paragraphs are there in the statement of claim and how do we respond to each of the allegations. If there is a paragraph in allegations in the statement of claim that says that the defendant was involved in dishonest and fraudulent conduct, well, that might amount to fraud, an allegation of fraud, in which case the pleading needs to be particularized. Most junior lawyers would miss that that is a requirement. And our app asks the question of the user, is there an allegation that the defendant did something dishonest or fraudulent? And if the answer is yes, did they particularize? Did the plaintiff particularize that allegation? And if not, the app automatically generates a letter to the other side requesting further and better particulars. So how do we create an app like this with Neota Logic? Well, it's an expert system app. It's using binary logic, yes, no questions, some conditional statements. We can reduce a workflow that may have 68 different variables to 12 points of contact for the user. And we do that by asking a series of questions that responds to the user with yes, no, not sure. And if they're not sure, let's go and find out something else, come back and continue on with the app. So this is what it looks like. So what we have done in order to ensure that the students can get through the development and design of this app within the short period of time available in the course is to present them with a half-completed app. We gave them an app that had a number of pages, there were 10 altogether, and also a number of built-in errors. We also provided lessons on how to develop the underlying logic. The sort of thing that was missing was what you see here. There's no input field. And we wanted the students to know that this is not a value field or a date field, it's a text field. It has to be text because if you made that a value field, it would calculate the matter number, for example, 2020 over 123, and they would end up with a decimal point. My understanding is most technologists would see that as trivial, but for a lot of law students, that is a very important learning. The other things we wanted them to understand was that when you're using products, you need to know the conventions. With Neota Logic, you have radio buttons where one selection is appropriate. But when you're testing the app, we need the students to see the output. We wanted to make sure that it behaved the way that they would have anticipated. In order to do this, we provided a statement of claim in a hypothetical scenario. And when they tested the app, they had a draft defense that is populated with all of the client's responses to each of the allegations in the statement of claim. And then we also have a request for further and better particulars because there's an allegation of fraud. Most junior lawyers who are asked to produce a draft defense would not know to respond to a question about limitations, to do a conflicts check, or to think about asking for further and better particulars of the other side. The feedback from the students in this exercise has been very interesting. There are 3 key learnings. Number 1, law students are actually really interested in doing this, but need to be brought to it through a core subject. We had a lot of resistance from some of the students at the beginning, and that sentiment changed throughout the process so that they were appreciative at the end. Left to their own devices, law students will make the wrong choices about what they need to do for the future. They need to be encouraged to do these activities in core subjects. The second thing that was interesting is I had students contact me and say that what they'd learned in this course, for example, there's a limitation period that you need to check, or you need to find out whether the parties are solvent, was something they would not have thought out so carefully, but for the fact that it's in the app that they had to build. And some of them said they'll never forget it again. And the third one, which I found the most powerful, was students who contacted me and said that because they wrote this up in their resumes, they were able to get applications for clerkships and jobs that they had previously thought were out of their reach, which is a very powerful final point that I think is coming across, that the market itself is very interested in students who have actually experienced designing and developing an app with a product like Neota Logic, which is used in practice. And I think when we think about legal technology in law schools, practice authenticity is key.
Thank you very much, Pip. Very, very illuminating. I think these are the types of initiatives that not only are we trying to make the platform available to industry leaders, leading corporations, corporate legal departments, law firms, everyone in between, but also I think it highlights the importance and the aspect to add digital legal service transformation as part of legal education all over the world, because this is the new world that we are all living and working in now. So thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you to all of you who've joined us. And hopefully you found the information as illuminating as I have, and look forward to seeing you at the next Neota Network session.